me go ahead and stop sharing here so that we can, well, I'll just gonna keep, because you guys can see my face on the little video, I think. Can you guys see me? All right, we got somebody else clicking in here, Miss Vanessa. So this was fun for me to put together. I come from a family of artists. My children are artists. The talent skipped me, but that's okay because I still find the value in art. Even if I am not as good as my siblings or my children, I still enjoy it. And I hope by the end of this, everyone will see that you don't have to be a famous artist to get the benefits of an art therapy or just art creation in general. I was really surprised at all the benefits it gives to our brain from not even just creating art, but even just viewing art, viewing beautiful aesthetic things is wonderful for our brains. And so, good morning, Vanessa. And so I hope that you all will find value in this information. I hope it's something that can be applicable to your daily life. The running theme of my educations this last month has really been about finding ways to build resilience when it comes to caregiver stress. And they might not be directly related to stress relieving activities, like in some, like breathing exercises and all that, but art definitely is something that nourishes your brain, gives us that neuroplasticity, which is the ability to make connections in our brain, and it makes it just more healthy. And I think when we have a healthy brain, we can process difficult emotions and difficult stress a lot easier. And so that's really the goal here with these trainings for me, is just to give you guys some tools, some resources, some ideas to really just nurture your brain and be kind to it. So that way, when we do kind of come up against those stressful moments, those stressful situations, our resilience and our ability to bounce back is a little easier than maybe it was before. So we've got Angela popped in, good morning. Shirley popped in, good morning. Vanessa popped in, good morning. And if I missed any good mornings, good morning to everybody. So as I was saying before, for those of you who maybe didn't hear, if you put your name in the chat, this is our education stipend opportunity for this month. So if you put your name in or your email in the chat, I can fill out the form for you and get you qualified for that stipend. So before I begin, does anybody want to unmute and share anything or any insights, anything that's happened this last week that maybe you wanted to get off your chest or share with the group? I want to give you guys time for that before we start. All right, so I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen and we'll get into this brief PowerPoint. Okay. So we are doing relieving caregiver stress through art. Let me go ahead and click that down. So we'll start way at the beginning. Cave drawings, cave paintings. So artistic expression is our birthright. Cave painting is considered one of the first expressions of the human animal's appreciation of beauty and a representation of mystic or sacred side to life. The arts have been used as healing tools throughout the ages, from the sacred chanting of Gregorian monks to Native American dance rituals to even the present day. Art accesses many of the advanced processes of the human brain, such as intuitive analysis, expressivity, and embodied cognition. Embodied cognition is the influence of bodily sensations on our psychological states. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And artists are often better observers and have better memory, and this may be due to how art affects the brain's plasticity, which is basically just an umbrella term referring to the brain's ability to change, reorganize, and grow neural networks. So what that means in a nutshell is art strengthens your brain. It makes it happy, and it makes it more resilient to quote unquote negative emotions, stressful situations. So the more we feed our brains these good things, the better our brain will be to us. Speaking of our brain, This is Your Brain on Art, which is actually the name of a book that I researched while doing this. So there's increasing evidence in rehab medicine that the field of neuroscience and the field of neuroscience that art enhances brain function by impacting brainwave patterns, emotions, and the nervous system. So our reward system releases feel-good brain chemicals like our favorites, dopamine and serotonin, oxytocin, and triggers sensations of pleasure and positive emotions. So we all need more of that in our life, I'm sure. When we scan the brain, we see pleasure centers light up when we're both creating and beholding the arts or engaging in aesthetic experiences. So aesthetic experiences are just things that we find pretty, right? Things that we find visually pleasurable, auditorily pleasurable. So that could be art, that could be music, that could be nature. These are things that make our brains happy. It triggers that pleasure center in our brain. The benefits aren't just making art. We already told you that. It's about experiencing art, looking at it, and it can stimulate the creation of new neural pathways and ways of thinking. So beyond the brain's skills at making a sense of what we're seeing, the brain actually goes through changes when we look at beautiful art pieces. So it isn't just, oh, that's pretty. It actually helps our brain make those neural pathways, those neural connections, and helping us to think better, problem solve better, be more creative in our problem solving, just from looking at art, looking at beautiful things. So there was a study conducted by Professor Samir Zeki. He is a chair in neuroaesthetics at the University College in London. And he found that when people viewed art that they thought was the most beautiful, the blood flow increased by as much as 10% to the region of the brain associated with pleasure. And that is the equivalent of looking at a loved one. I thought that was such a charming little bit of information. Like if you just look at a pretty painting, your brain kind of sees it as looking at somebody that you love. And I just thought that was so cute. Our brain can be so cute sometimes. So next we've got art changes consciousness. So on the side here, I've got a painting called Woman with a Parasol Facing Left by Claude Monet, and this is from 1886. So when you observe a profound piece of art, like Claude Monet's Woman with a Parasol Facing Left, you're potentially firing the same neurons as the artist did when they created it, which I thought was pretty cool. And that makes new neural pathways and stimulates a state of inspiration. The sense of being drawn into a painting is embodied cognition. So for those of you who can see the screen and are not driving, if you look at this painting, it's almost as if you can almost be in that space with her. Of course, it's an impressionistic painting, so it's not super detailed, but you know, you can see how the wind is blowing and the sun shining, and it does just kind of, if you look at it long enough, it almost, you get that sensation that maybe you're even standing there with her. And that's what embodied cognition is. And that's what art can do for you. It can kind of transport you into somewhere else. So the author of the book I mentioned earlier, Your Brain on Art, says that when you experience virtual reality, read poetry or fiction, see a movie or listen to a piece of music, move your body to dance, anything like, you know, any of the arts, you are biologically changed. There's a neurochemical exchange that can lead to what Aristotle calls catharsis, or release of emotion that leaves you feeling more connected to yourself and others. I am a singer. I've been singing for years. I used to sing in the church, and now I just sing for fun. And for me, singing, participating in that art form, it really is a catharsis. It really is a release of motion or emotions. I love to dance. Dancing also makes me feel alleviated from a lot of stress. It's almost like you turn up the good and turn down the bad when you experience art or when you're engaging in art. And that's, I don't know, I think everyone needs more of that. So that's why this is so important. Even if you're not what you would consider an artist, you can still participate in the arts and your brain will thank you for it. So next we have art heals. So there's a caregiver advocate and life coach named David Goff, and this is what he says about it. Art grounds your relationship with yourself and with others. Art also allows the use of our creativity and imagination, which are two of the most effective life coping skills. It affords you the opportunity to express your ideas and feelings at times when words may just get in the way. You can express your ideas and sometimes find new perspectives that ultimately empower you and your loved one to reclaim your life's narrative. I truly believe that art heals you. So a lot of people engage in art with their care recipient, and that's a good way for you to bond together, for you to experience aesthetically pleasing things together, and for you to really just, strengthen and grow your brain together, as well as your relationships. So there is a scientific study on how the brain responds to the arts and aesthetic experiences, and it's called neuroaesthetics. It's fairly new, but people in this field, experts in this field, actually encourage adults to engage in art. So that could be painting, composing, cooking, or dancing, listening to music, walking in nature, watching a play, or sitting inside a cathedral. A lot of those are very ornate and decorative. They encourage that because art does so much good for our minds and our bodies. It helps us to cultivate our curiosity, stay open to our emotions, which if you've been in any of my classes, to me, that is huge. And experience surprise or novelty. It helps us think differently about life, embrace ambiguity, engage the senses, feel awe, and more. It may even help heal your soul. So I really like that, because if you validate your emotions, if you stay open to them, if you allow yourself to really feel and express those emotions, that's probably one of the best things you can do for yourself. It's probably one of the most healthy things you can do for your brain and even for your soul, because we all know that if you bottle those things up and you don't let them free, it can cause all sorts of physical problems later on down the road, all sorts of mental health problems like depression and anxiety. And so the more of the good that we can get into our lives, the better for us. And this painting here on the left, well, it might be on the right, depending on if it flips the screen or not, is a painting by Edgar Degas called The Ballet, and this is from 1876. So we're going to go ahead and look at some art just to kind of get an idea and see if we feel better after we look at it, just to kind of give us that experience. So the first art piece that I have is called Lady with an Ermine, which looks like a weasel, but I guess that's an ermine. I don't know if it's something different. But this is by Leonardo da Vinci, and they date this anywhere between 1489 and 1491. So this is oil, I believe, on canvas. It's very detailed. You can tell he took a long time playing with the light and the shadow and really just making this look real. It's almost like she just kind of pops off the canvas here. And this is a portrait of a young lady named Cecilia Gallerani, I think is how you pronounce it. She was 16 years old when Da Vinci was commissioned for this painting. And they say she was presumably pregnant at the time. It says she was known for her beauty, scholarship, and poetry skills. So this might not be your specific flavor of art, but you can still appreciate the talent and the skill that was put into this art. Maybe even for me, I almost feel like kind of transported into that space with her. And that's really what art is all about. It's about transporting you into different places of thought, different places of feeling, and really letting your brain be human, right? Experiencing those things that animals cannot experience, which is the appreciation of art and aesthetic experiences. The next painting I want to show you is by Pablo Picasso, and it is Guernica. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is from 1937. Picasso isn't really a realistic painter. He is, well, I'm not sure exactly what the style is. I'm sorry, I'm not an art buff, but it's definitely a darker painting. If you look at it longer, the longer you look at it, the more you notice. And this is a pretty famous painting by Picasso, and it was based on the events of April 27th in 1937. So Hitler's German Air Force was supporting the Franco, which I think he was in Spain, like a ruler of Spain, and he bombed the village of Guernica in northern Spain. And it was tragic because there was no strategic military value. It was history's first aerial saturation bombing of a civilian population. So they were testing bombs, new bombing tactics to intimidate and terrorize the residents. And for 3 hours, 25 bombers dropped 100,000 pounds of explosives and incendiary bombs on the village. And so this massacre of innocent lives that had no military strategic advantage really inspired Picasso to express the feelings he had about that, the pain, the turmoil, the heartbreak. So this was his way of working through those feelings and making that public statement to people that, you know, war is brutal, war is ugly, and a lot of unnecessary deaths occurred because of that bombing. And so you can see here how Picasso just really laid it all out on the canvas. This is a mural-sized canvas. It was huge. And so he used art to work through a lot of those complicated emotions. And even though it depicts a very terrifying scene, I think that we can all see the beauty in that because it's very human. Despair and confusion and sadness are very, very human. And instead of him bottling those feelings up, he put it out on the canvas. It was catharsis for him, and I'm sure for many who view that art after knowing the story. And finally, my last art piece I want to share you is by Leonid Afremov. It's called Rain's Rustle, and this was actually painted fairly recently in 2010. So this is another impressionistic art piece. What I love about this art piece are the colors. It's, you know, you think of rain in the evening, it's be kind of cold and dreary, but here he allowed illumination of warm colors. And so when I look at this piece, I think of, you know, a cozy, rainy lover stroll. The colors are just very contrasting and beautiful, and it makes me feel very, very light and very whimsical, I guess. And so this is just another way that art can evoke emotion, can kind of transport you into a space that maybe you had never been transported to before. And so I really do enjoy this piece. All right, next we'll talk about some mental health benefits of art. So we've got self-discovery. So creating art can help you acknowledge and recognize feelings that have been lurking in your subconscious. A lot of times people don't know what they're going to do, what they're going to draw, what they're going to sculpt, what they're going to paint. They just sit there and let their arms do the talking or their hands do the talking and do that art kind of subconsciously, that inspiration subconsciously. And that's a good way for us to do some self-discovery, maybe kind of see what's lurking in our subconscious. What have we been holding on to maybe that we need to let go? It can also help with your self-esteem. So even if you go into it knowing you're not going to come out with a masterpiece, that's okay. The process of it will give you a feeling of self-accomplishment, which can be very valuable to improve your self-appreciation and confidence. So again, you don't have to be the world's most famous artist to participate. It'll still give you a sense of self-appreciation and confidence just by starting it and completing that project. Stress relief. So research in the field of art therapy is still ongoing, but many are finding that engaging in art therapy reduces stress. Creating art can reduce cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, for both those who identify as artists and for those who don't. So it doesn't matter what your skill level is, everyone can benefit from making art. And finally, we've got an emotional release. The greatest benefit of art therapy is giving you a healthy outlet for expressing and letting go of all your feelings and fears, just like Picasso did. Complex emotions such as sadness or anger sometimes cannot be expressed with words. So that is, to me, an amazing benefit of art because, you know, sometimes you don't have that safe space to release what's on your heart. You know, you don't want to, you know, maybe express those feelings directly to somebody. Maybe you don't really even know how you're feeling. So art can give you that release, that emotional release to really kind of help you navigate those feelings in a safe space. Next, we can talk about art as a meditative practice. I know meditation is one of those buzzwords that we hear a lot, and we've talked about it a few times in some of our education classes. But meditation is really difficult. I mean, sitting in, you know, in silence with your own thoughts, not really knowing what to do with them can be a little intimidating. So we can get some of the same benefits of meditation through art. So we can do coloring and drawing. It's been found to reduce people's heart rate and increase what they call the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is a marker of good heart health. And it makes you feel less anxious. This is true for me. I'll give you an example. I used to smoke cigarettes way back in the day. And when I was trying to quit smoking, I used coloring books and I just colored anytime I had that craving. And it allowed me to kind of do something with my hands and also increased my my feel good, hormones and all that in my brain. And so that anxiety that I felt that I needed a cigarette kind of melted away. So that is a very true statement in my life, that coloring and drawing can help you feel less anxious. Sculpting with clay has been found to change wave patterns in our brains in ways that reflect a relaxed and meditative state. That could be, artist clay, polymer clay, where you create it and you fire it in a kiln or whatever, or bake it in the oven. Or that could even be just something simple like Play-Doh, just creating any little thing. Even if you're just doing the classic Play-Doh worm, you're still working with clay, sculpting with clay, and that can actually put your brain in a relaxed and meditative state. There's evidence that listening to poetry can have a similar effect on the brain as listening to music, and it gives us peak emotional experiences. I'm sure all of us have at least one song that we can listen to, and it just kind of takes us on an emotional journey, and we feel good after it. And listening to poetry can have that same effect. And art allows people to enter a flow state, or that feeling when you're in the zone and you lose sense of yourself and of time. Making art can help you be more present, and it activates a variety of networks, including a relaxed reflective state, focused attention, and pleasure, which are also some of the same benefits you get from meditating. So if you want to start a meditation practice and it's sitting on a mat and staring at a candle or what have you isn't really your thing, you can still give your brain those same experiences just by creating art or listening to music, listening to poetry. That can definitely help. So a little bit of information also on this before I come to the next slide. The brain is a predictive machine. So it uses information about what's happened to make decisions about what we need to do and next to survive. So creating art allows you to make decisions and interpret images, figuring out what it means, and helping you face potential futures as well as imagine better and more hopeful ones. So really just it gives your brain that strength to maybe have more of an open mind about your situation, help you process some of the emotions you're feeling, good or bad. It really just is kind of just like a yummy brain soup for you to kind of just nourish your brain through art. So what is one thing that we hear a lot when people say that, when you're suggesting someone to do art, and they say, well, I'm not good at it. It's very important to know that you don't have to be a talented artist in order to benefit from doing art. So we as human beings are innately creative. So all we need to do to complete art therapy activities successfully is to just be honest with ourselves and our emotions. Once you unleash your creativity, your inner artist will quickly wake up. Making art invigorates the brain in ways that are distinct from merely viewing art. So viewing it and doing it are good for you, but doing it actually gives you more benefits. Studies have credited the production of visual art with increases in functional connectivity in the brain, along with enhanced activation of the visual cortex, which is, how we see things. So researchers liken creating art with exercise for the brain, and even suggest that it's similar to how physical exercise aids the body. So creating art may help to keep the mind sharp and lucid well into old age. And we all want that, right? We all want to be as sharp and as lucid as we can as we age. And beyond that, creating art can help you cope with stressful and difficult situations you face in everyday life. You don't need to be a tried and true artist to make art. You can get started on de-stressing, having fun, and creating art today. So don't stop yourself from doing something that's good for you because you don't think you're good at it. I think in our culture, we like to make everything a profit-making adventure. Sometimes doing art for art's sake is all that you really need. We have that right as human beings. It's something that we are just naturally drawn to do. And don't let anyone make you feel like you can't create because it isn't sellable art, because that's not the goal. The goal is to do art for you. And if other people enjoy it, great. If they don't, that's fine too, because you had fun doing it, right? So how do you get started? Here's some suggestions. I'm sure we've all heard about those group painting classes. A lot of times local studios or even bars will do them, and allows you to socialize with friends while creating a beautiful piece of art. So that'll be something like where the instructor will have, a specific piece that they're going to show you how to do, and then everybody gets to create their own version of that art piece. And I've always thought those are interesting to see how many different versions of the same thing you can come up with. And it really does magnify the beautiful individuality of each and every person, that we can look at the same thing, but we process it in our brains a little differently, and it comes out a little differently. And it's just fascinating for me to see all that. Adult coloring books. I know these were huge, maybe, 5 to 10 years ago when they came out, and they had all those cool little like mandalas and spirally things you can do. They can help you relax and take away the tension of a stressful day. You can find options of varying levels and difficulty to help you wind down. Now, I will say I own a lot of adult coloring books, but they don't really do it for me. But give me a Disney princess coloring book and I will be there all day long. So it doesn't have to be a complicated adult coloring book. It really can just be a printout of anything that you think is cute or interesting that you can color. Because I really do think that just seeing color on the page, putting color on the page, even if it's just a crayon or a colored pencil, I think your brain really lights up and enjoys that. So coloring books are great. Adult coloring books are great. You might feel kind of goofy doing it at first, but it really, really does help with the stress. Photography is another art form that you can use. So you can pick up your camera, or you can just use your phone and snap a few pictures around your house, of friends and family, places you spend your time. You can even give yourself little challenges to take a certain amount of photos a day. Bring your camera to an unexpected event and see if you can discover a new perspective. I really enjoy photography. I don't think I am a photographer in a way that I could make money off of it, but that's okay. I like taking pictures and editing them and sharing them with my scrapbooks. That is also an art form. Sketching something at your house. So you can even just start, I'm going to sketch my dining room table, or I'm going to sketch my breakfast. Just sit down and give yourself a few minutes to sketch it. And then maybe next time bump it up. Maybe you've got 10 minutes, then you could do a 30-minute sketch. Then you can maybe do a 45-minute sketch and just see how your skills improve. But it does challenge your brain and it keeps your creativity flowing. And finally, we've got figure drawing classes. This is a little more advanced. If you like drawing, or if maybe you want to learn how to draw better, you can go to a figure drawing class. So those are usually found in local community centers or art museums. I think I'm in Huntsville, and I think the Huntsville Art Museum does do figure drawing classes for free. And so that could just be a fun way to kind of like dip your toes in the water and see if it's something that you want to continue to learn to do. Again, it's not really about the end product. It's really about the process. It's really about, is your brain enjoying the activity, not really what comes out at the end. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged thinking that they're not artists. We are all artists by nature of being a human being. So you can just create beautiful things and not worry about what other people are going to think about it. So I'll go ahead and stop my share. So I really do want to just drive home the point that art is just about you. Art is about your self-expression. It's about your creativity. It's about your emotions that you're processing. I mean, maybe if you're angry, you just want to take out a black crayon and scribble a black void on a piece of paper, right? That's okay. That's art. You created that art. You released that energy. You got the benefits from it. It doesn't have to be something you hang up on your wall. It's just the process that's important. So does anybody have any comments, insights, questions, anything about the presentation or otherwise that you'd like to share? Is anyone in this group currently doing art, practicing?
Yes, I'm a writer. I write short stories and poetry. I also am an amateur photographer. I don't know that I'm good enough to make any money from it, but I have 30,000 photos on my phone right now. Just I love photography. And cooking is a love language. It's also an art form for me. So those are the ways that I enjoy art.
That's awesome, Crystal. Thank you for sharing that. And if you think about what she said, she does photography, she writes, and she cooks. So art doesn't have to be pulling out a canvas and painting, you know, a Picasso or something like that. Art is really just about a visual or aesthetic experience that's coming out of you. So yes, you can consider cooking an art form because you're expressing yourself, you're releasing emotion, you're releasing that energy through that form of art. And you know, you can share it with other people, or you can just eat it all yourself. But yeah, that any way that you are expressing your humanity, right? You're expressing your full range of emotion. That's art. Okay. So it doesn't have to be, you know, Michelangelo's David. It really can just be a beautiful plate that you serve to your family, or it could just be a page out of a coloring book. It doesn't matter. Anybody else want to share anything?
I work with the kids, the Helen Keller Art Show of Alabama. And a couple weeks ago in Tuscaloosa, we did an art class with the kids. And they were just so relaxed because these are blind and visually impaired kids, and they were so relaxed. So when I got back home, I decided this is what I need to be doing to relax. So I decided to do this big butterfly to put over my bed. I have changed the color of the butterfly 3 times, so I don't think I can change it again. So with art, like you were saying, I appreciate that. It's like, just be creative and let it go. I got all the little bling bling to put on the wings and stuff, and it's relaxing just to sit there and try to figure it all out. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that when we start an art project or we start an art therapy program or project, we do not concern ourselves with the end product, right?
Mhm,
And of course, if you are a skilled artist and you know, maybe getting a commission or something, obviously you need to know what you're doing. But for
yeah.
most of us, I mean, it's really just about the doing of the thing. Most of my art that I do ends up in the trash, and it's not because it's terrible. It's just because
Okay.
it served its purpose, you know? And
Yeah.
also, you know, doing art has a lot of benefits for us, but observing art does too. So even if you're not in a place where you physically want to create art yet, that's okay. Go to an art museum, look up some pictures online. Visual arts are not the only art expression either. I mean, like I told you, I like to dance. I'm not a dancer, but I like to shake it. And so I'll turn my music up and I'll dance. And that is an artistic expression right there. And surrounding ourselves with aesthetically pleasing things, beautiful things,
Mhm.
that gives us the benefits of art also. So even if it's just a bouquet of flowers that you buy yourself at the grocery store, or maybe you buy a really, really pretty blouse and you just love the colors and the way it feels on your skin, that's an artistic expression. Okay, how we style ourselves, how we do our makeup if we wear it, that's all about that soul expression. Okay, so don't think you have to do, you know, pottery or painting or, you know, the basic, you know, what we would see, you know, commonly seen as art. As long as you're expressing yourself, as long as you are releasing emotion when you do it, that's art. That's art. Even going out in nature and experiencing, you know, the creator's canvas, right? That can be healing as well.
I know when you mentioned about the flowers, that's great because I love flowers. So I always keep them on my counter.
Mhm.
And Winn-Dixie have them sometimes $5, but it's just, you know, just getting that bouquet of flowers and arranging them. My mom never cared about flowers, but now she pays attention. And if I don't
Mhm.
have them there, and she was like, "What happened to your flowers?" Okay, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. She pays attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you know, I grew up, I'm the middle child of 5, and the 2 older ones have amazing artistic talent. The 2 younger ones have amazing artistic talent. And there's me with my little crayons. And so it's easy to be intimidated when you're around people who you know what they can produce.
Mhm.
Um, but I still have fun doing it because it's not for them, it's for me. So I understand if there's some apprehension there to try and do something artistic for yourself. Um, but there's ways to express yourself through art, that it's just for you. That's really the bottom line.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I guess working with kids that are blind and visually impaired, that really brings that out because they have no idea, but they always come out with a unique masterpiece that cannot
Yeah,
be. So, yeah.
that's fascinating. Yeah. So, even if they're not really viewing it in the same way that people who don't have those disabilities is viewing it, they're still enjoying the process. They're still experiencing the joy of creating. And I think
Right.
that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And the other art that now that everybody's using is the pouring of the art. So you mix the paints up and pour it on the canvas and you just move in the canvas. It comes out a beautiful piece of art.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes it's just, what colors look good together and just being able to see the colors don't have any specific form.
Thank you. Can we
Well, I
get a
hope this,
copy of your PowerPoint today?
say what now?
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint today?
Sure. And also, all of my education should be on the website at some point too. So
Okay.
if you ever want to go back and review the information, check the website. I'm not sure. My boss is the one that posts them, so I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. But
Okay.
I have no problem sending the PowerPoint to anybody who wants it. But again, if you just want the full presentation, it'll be online also.
Okay. Thank you.
So I hope you all have been inspired to try some art, to try and give your brain that beautiful exercise that builds resilience, because really that's what it's about. We're not going to be able to remove a lot of the stress from our lives, but we can get tools to help us build that resilience to it. So that way, when we do come across something that maybe is a little more harder to process, maybe it gets a little less difficult to process because we've been doing these brain strengthening practices like art and meditation and practicing gratitude. These are all ways, it's like a brain gym, right? It's ways for us to build that resilience. All right.
Great.
Anybody else have anything they want to say before we end today? I don't want to rush anybody or put anyone on the spot, but I also don't want anyone to feel left out if they have something they want to share. Well, thank you. And again, if you did not put your email address in the chat, please do so that I can get you that education stipend form filled out. And again, if you have any questions, comments, you just want to talk, you want any more information, or if you have any suggestions for future classes, please email me or call me. I'd love to hear your feedback. It just only makes me better to know what you guys need from me. So I hope you all have a restful weekend. I hope you all find at least 20 minutes a day to carve out for yourselves to do something you enjoy. And I can't wait to see you all in our next class. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
You also.